16,359 on January 2nd to a record high 18,700 by January 10th. Independent research group Okta says this is the peak or the highest number of cases in this surge. As quickly as they spiked, the numbers in Metro Manila were substantially down to only 5,400 on January 23rd. And the Health Department is now confirming COVID-19 cases in the region are on the decline.
But we are still very cautious because we know that there are a lot of individuals that are using antigen tests at home and even in the local governments that are not being reported to the DOH. And also, there are a lot of individuals currently who are sick, opts to isolate and without being tested.
In NCR, we're roughly seeing the same similar pattern with South Africa. It was a rapid increase followed by a decrease, almost as rapid but not as rapid. Ganun din sa NCR, we saw a rapid increase followed by a decrease.
In addition, Okta says cases in neighboring Bulacan, Rizal, and Cavite are also going down. On the other hand, Angeles, Lucena, Olongapo, Baguio, and Cebu cities are nearing the peak. And cases could still go up in other provinces.
Patterns will probably follow in general, pero each region has unique properties, different vaccine coverage. Kasi isang factor dito yung vaccine coverage, isang factor yung mobility, yung alert level.
Okta projects COVID-19 cases in Metro Manila may decline to 1,000 by Valentine's Day and to less than 500 a day by end of February. And this wave of infection might end by March or April. Despite this upbeat outlook, the Health Department says it is not yet inclined to recommend easing restrictions in Metro Manila.
We will need to review the metrics. Hopefully, lahat ng ginagawa natin ay nagiging epektibo at sana maging tagumpay para talaga maibaba natin to 3 or double-digit cases ang Kamaynilaan para matibay ang batayan for de-escalating to alert level 2.
Kung nasa 2,000 cases per day pa tayo by first week of February, baka masyado pang premature na ibaba agad to alert level 2. Mas mabuting siguraduhin na nating bumaba at bumagsak ng bilang ng kaso tulad na nakita natin noong October to November to December, siguro bago tayo magluwag.
The IATF is meeting on January 27th to decide on alert levels in Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Aside from the number of cases, the government is also monitoring hospital care use, infection rate, and the number of people infected per 100,000 population. Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
The 5-day vaccine drive for commuters and drivers kicked off at a public transport terminal in Parañaque today. The initiative aims to bring vaccination sites closer to the public. Chrissy Di Matulak brings us up to speed.
The government is wrapping up its vaccination drive for the country to achieve herd immunity. The Transportation Department, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, and the Health Department have all teamed up with the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange for the vaccination of commuters and drivers of public transport in the terminal. The We Vax as One mobile vaccination drive for commuters and transport workers will run for 5 days from today, January 24 to 28. AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine is administered as first, second, and booster doses.
Just by placing this station sa mga strategic area na very convenient sa ating mga kababayan, mas lalong ma-encourage sila magpabakuna ng mabilisan, no? At nakita mo, bilis lang, wala pang 5 minutes tapos kagad ang proseso. Dadamihan pa po namin ito.
Pauwi na ako ng Bacoor, tapos may libre daw. Tsaka hindi pa ako naka-schedule doon sa Bacoor, kaya dito na lang po ako nagpa-booster.
The mobile vaccination drive aims to inoculate 500 individuals per day. From 8 a.m. until 12 noon, walk-ins are allowed. Those who will be receiving their booster shots will be given priority. The government is eyeing to tap more establishments as locations for the vaccination drive. This is to make inoculations more accessible to the public, especially with the implementation of the no vaccination, no entry policy in public areas and transportation. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
The Labor Department now accepting applications for its one-time cash assistance for displaced and affected workers in areas under Alert Level 3 and 4. Our Tristan Odalo reports.
Private sector employees who are affected by tighter restrictions under Alert Level 3 or higher may start availing the 5,000 peso cash aid of the Labor Department starting this week. The assistance will cover employees who have been laid off from businesses that have been closed either permanently or temporarily. Government employees, foreign nationals, and tourism sector workers are not covered by the cash assistance. Beneficiaries of the aid program can apply through the DOLE website at www.reports.dole.gov.ph. The worker must submit a personal photo showing a valid government ID and notarized proof of unemployment. Approval of application may take up to 3 working days and cash will be sent to remittance centers.
The rational dito kasi pag alert level 3, medyo yung capacity ng work at saka yung business limited. Like for example, ang restaurant under alert level 3, kapag ka dine-in, kailangan 30% capacity lang yan. So definitely, yung owner ng restaurant, magre-reduce yan ng workers. O yung mga mateterminate, although temporarily, mabibigyan ng ayuda.
The government estimates that up to 25,000 workers have been affected by the imposition of Alert Level 3 in many areas nationwide. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
A recent study by the Science and Technology Department shows virgin coconut oil, or VCO, helps treat mild to moderate COVID-19. But the agency clarifies it's only an additional supplement to ease symptoms. Stanley Gahete has the details.
Mark Lester believes that the medicinal benefits of the virgin coconut oil, or VCO, help alleviate his mild COVID-19 symptoms.
It somehow helped, no? Kasi merong parang soothing feeling din kapag nagte-take ka ng VCO. Napaka-importante na yung medicines natin, yung mga tinitake natin para gumaling, science-based.
A recent study by the Food and Nutrition Research Institute of the Department of Science and Technology shows that taking VCO promoted faster recovery among COVID-19 patients with mild to moderate symptoms. The study says VCO significantly lowers the C-reactive protein or CRP, which is a biomarker for inflammation and infection.
Ngayon, yung mga nag-perform sa amin ng clinical trials, halimbawa yan sa VCO, ay nakikipag-usap sila sa kanilang counterpart researchers sa ibang bansa na subukang magkaroon din sila ng trials. Tapos maraming ebidensya at trials ay mas magandang makakumbinse sa scientific community.
In the study, mild symptoms in 18% or 7 out of 39 COVID-19 patients who took VCO began to ease at day 2. Signs and symptoms of all patients had disappeared at day 14. Meanwhile, all patients who did not take VCO were cleared of COVID symptoms only at day 26.
Ang aming ine-emphasize, ito ay adjunctive therapy or makadadagdag sa pagpapabilis ng resolution ng symptoms at sa pagbaba noong marker ng infection.
Virgin coconut oil continues to undergo extensive testing by DOST as an adjunct therapy in managing COVID-19 symptoms, along with other products like Lagundi and other possible means to combat diseases in the time of the pandemic. Stanley Gahete, CNN Philippines.
In global headlines, China sees 72 coronavirus cases among personnel related to the 2022 Winter Olympics in its capital, Beijing. None of them so far are athletes. Authorities carried out a closed-loop system or a bubble, cutting off Olympic athletes and officials from the rest of the city. The Winter Games kick off on February 4th. Well, speaking of China, the East Asian giant showed off its military might on Sunday, sending 39 warplanes into Taiwan's air defense zone. That's after the United States and Japanese navies put on a massive show of force in the Philippine Sea. The U.S. Navy said they were training to protect a free and open Indo-Pacific region. Taiwan issued radio warnings and deployed defense missiles to monitor the warplanes. Taipei and mainland China have been governed separately for over 70 years, but Beijing insists the island is part of its territory. Ukraine braces for possible military action as more than 127,000 Russian troops gather at its border. The U.S. sent weapons to Ukraine and cut staff at its embassy in the capital, earlier warning that an invasion could be imminent. U.S. President Joe Biden again vowed swift and severe consequences against Moscow should it further invade Ukraine. Amid growing tensions, Pope Francis called for January 26th to be a day of prayer for peace. Presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos says he will not disclose his SAL-N or statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth if he wins in the 2022 polls. And the Philippine Basketball Association Board agrees to resume the Governor's Cup next month, weeks after suspending games because of COVID-19. Details next.
Libre ko San Miguel Beer, basta akin ng Tansan. Tansan? Sa San Miguel Oktoberfest Instant GCash Panalo Promo, uulan ng up to 100 million pesos in GCash prizes. Buy any San Miguel Beer, hanapin ang code sa crown. Kung meron, panalo ka! Iscan ang QR code sa mga posters at Facebook. I-type ang code and win! Sali na! Available in areas where allowed. See posters for full details. Promo runs from September 1 to December 31, 2021. Per DOH FDA CFR permit number 0424 series of 2021. Drink responsibly.
RPN DXKP Pagadian. Ang inyong Radyo Ronda. RPN. RPN. Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. Live to
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. The group seeking to void the candidate. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. The group seeking to void the candidacy of former Senator Bongbong Marcos now bringing their case to the COMELEC's full bench of judges. Petitioners also have other requests from the poll body. Let's bring in our Melissa Lopez for the details. Mel, what exactly do they want?
Via a human rights group represented by lawyer Theodore Te, has asked the 7-member COMELEC and bank to reverse last week's decision, junking their bid to block the presidential run of Bongbong Marcos. They also asked the poll body not to include Marcos's name from the ballots, though ballot printing already started over the weekend, and his name is among 10 presidential bets. The same group asked 3 COMELEC commissioners who are part of the division to inhibit from the review. They are Commissioners Socorro Inting, Antonio Co, and Ray Bulay. Tess Camp accused them of being biased in Bongbong's favor. Tess says the poll officials sound impartial and confrontational in their 32-page ruling last week. The group is claiming grave abuse of discretion when all 3 sided with Marcos and, quote, demonized the human rights defenders. If granted, there will only be 4 members left on COMELEC's full bench. But 3 of them are also retiring next month, including Chairman Sherif Abbas. And Commissioner Inting will serve as acting poll chairman. She happens to be the writer of the decision now in question. Tess Camp also argues that the division was wrong to say that Marcos can run. Tess Camp also argues that the division was wrong to say that Marcos spun him a perpetual ban from holding any government post. They claim such punishment is automatic for any violation of the tax code. Petitioners also insist that the commissioners made a mistake when they said that Bongbong did not deliberately lie in his COC to say he is qualified to run, despite knowing that he was previously found guilty for not filing his income tax returns. We have yet to hear when and how the poll body will tackle this appeal. Pia.
Mel, is there an update on the COMELEC's plan to hold debates, and do they have the power and are they going to exercise that to require candidates to attend?
Actually, COMELEC spokesman James Jimenez clarified over the weekend that while attending these public debates is not mandatory, candidates know just how big an opportunity it is to show their capability in answering or addressing national issues and in explaining their platforms of government. As of now, the poll body is still finalizing the rules and format of these debates, which we can expect the first COMELEC sanctioned event by the end of February. Pia, back to you.
Melissa Lopez there reporting. Still on Marcos, the former senator does not plan to release his statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, or SALN, to the public if elected to the country's top post. Marcos says the SALN can be weaponized by political rivals, citing the case of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona. The remarks come even if Marcos had previously said he would be willing to publicize his SALN.
Lahat ng politiko may kalaban eh. Makakahanap yan, gagawa ng issue ang kahit na walang issue. We have to be more protective. You know, the SALN is actually it shows exactly what your economic activity has been pretty much for all your life. Kung talagang may kaso, kung talagang may problema, kung may reklamo, padaan natin sa ating mga authorities at silang magtingin, silang tumingin. Look at the central bank which has all of these records anyway. AMLA has all of these records anyway. AMLA has all of these records anyway. If you take it to court, then the court will be allowed to look at all of the SALN and examine it properly.
During Jessica Sojo's presidential interviews on GMA 7, some top presidential aspirants all said they were in favor of publicizing a public official SALN. Labor leader Calyodi de Guzman also says refusing to release one SALN is a betrayal to the public. Meanwhile, Senator Ping Lacson explained why he described President Duterte as sayang. During that interview, Lacson said the Duterte administration did not succeed in three of its key advocacies: the war on drugs, the fight against corruption, and assertion of the country's sovereignty over the West Philippine Sea. Vice President Leni Robredo reminding her fellow aspirants they should not be afraid of facing tough questions and criticism because the public has the right to know the answers. Marcos declined to attend Jessica Sojo's interviews, claiming the multi-awarded journalist is biased, a statement that GMA 7 had rejected. Senator Manny Pacquiao says he is grateful after Robredo said she would vote for him if he was not running in the 2022 race. He adds he and Robredo have the same goal of lifting the country from poverty despite having different platforms and views. And Manila Mayor Isko Moreno admitted in the interview he kept 50 million pesos in campaign donations during his 2016 senatorial bid, but he said he paid taxes for these funds. He says he did not commit violations. I'm sorry, that's a repetition of the previous paragraph. Let's move on to other stories now. Veteran lawmakers weigh in on pressing matters to show why they're worthy of a Senate comeback. Our senior correspondent and anchor Ruth Cabal sat down with three hopefuls in CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. Paige Javier gives us the highlights.
From former Senate colleagues to fellow aspirants in the 2022 national elections, re-electionist Richard Gordon and aspiring returnees Cheese Escudero and J.V. Ejercito made their case in the second CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. The veteran lawmakers were on the same page in several key issues, like giving our health workers more.
Kung may batas man na gagawin, dapat isaklaw o isama ang temporary job order at contractual workers.
Itaas natin ang kanilang kompensasyon o benefits. Ginagarantiyan ng Universal Healthcare Law.
Dapat meron silang talaga mga break times na dapat talaga hindi ibababa doon. Kailangan dagdagan natin ang sweldo, kailangan dagdagan ng doctors.
The country also faces a potential power crisis with the near depletion of the Malampaya gas field. The senatorial aspirants believe it's about time to reconsider reviving the Bataan nuclear plant.
Neutral ako sa teknolohiyang importante lamang, ligtas ito, kayang bayaran ng sambayan ng Pilipino at makakatugon sa problema. Kaya ngayon pa lang, dapat tutukan na yan.
Dapat tingnan natin ang cost-benefit analysis. Makakabuti ba yan? Pagdating sa nuclear plant, I'm in favor of it in terms of magagamit natin yan.
And ang nuclear energy ay mababa po ang cost, halos kalahati lamang. So it's about time we reconsider No? Look into it, tignan muna natin. But of course, safety is the priority.
More than 5 years since the country won the arbitral ruling over the South China Sea dispute, China remains defiant. Ejercito, Escudero, and Gordon believe the Philippines cannot enforce the Hague decision on its own.
We can have forge alliances with Australia, United States, Japan, ASEAN neighbors in trying to maintain a zone of peace and free travel.
We cannot deal with China one-on-one. Kailangan kasama natin ang ASEAN, kailangan kasama natin ang ibang bansa. And for security purposes, dapat talaga meron tayong alliances.
Arbitral ruling ay hindi lamang laban sa interes ng China. Yan ang pangunahing rason kung kaya't mahihirapan tayong kumbinsihin ang ibang ASEAN countries.
But while united in several issues, they were divided in some, like the Duterte administration's war on drugs, where only Ejercito was in favor. When asked what would be on their agenda if they returned to the Senate, here's what they had to say.
Kung kaya diyan po ako nagpasya na ako'y tumakbo muli sa Senado para talaga tapusin po ang UHC para mas magaling pakipakinabang sa ating mga kababayan.
Pangunahing tututukan ko ang pagtugon sa pandemya, pagbibigay laya at mas malaking kakayahan para sa mga lokal na pamahalaan.
Yung RICH Bill, Regional Infrastructure Investment Coordinating Hub, na kung saan ay pagsasama-samahin natin yung mga lugar katulad sa Negros Island, sa Panay Island, doon sa mga regions, para sila mismo makakapag-imbita ng investments.
The weekly senatorial forums aim to educate voters and give hopefuls a voice. Filipinos decide whether or not these leaders deserve a vote. Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
Catch the replay of the senatorial forum later at 8, only here on CNN Philippines. Now, the armed forces took huge strides toward modernization right before 2021 ended. David Santos tells us about the arrival of new defense assets and the acquisition of more big-ticket items for the Army.
The armed forces ending 2021 with a bang, literally and figuratively. The Army getting 15 new armored mortar carriers or AMCs late December. Sourced from Israel, the AMCs are equipped with 120mm mortar systems. They're part of the mounted mortar acquisition project to expand the Army's fire support assets that will eventually include light tanks.
We're very fortunate that even before the pandemic, the procurement process was already completed. So we're just awaiting for the delivery of the projects.
Most of the Army's close to 500 armored assets are spread all over, except in Palawan, which is under the Navy's watch.
This capability demonstration here in Tarlac gives us a first-hand experience on the many assets of the Armored Division of the Philippine Army used in their different operations all over the country, specifically in Mindanao, but more particularly during the Marawi siege.
The armored carriers figured prominently during the 2017 battle in Marawi. The Defense Department recently announcing it is buying shore-based anti-ship missiles to help defend the nation's maritime borders. It will be supplied by BrahMos Aerospace of the Indian government, the deal worth 19 billion pesos. And with just months left in office, the Duterte administration also pushing for more big-ticket items. The DND signing the contract for 2 corvettes worth 28 billion from the same South Korean company behind the controversial 18 billion peso frigates. There is also funding for 6 offshore patrol vessels to be built by an Australian company worth 30 billion. President Duterte also approving to buy 32 additional Black Hawks from Poland with a price tag of 32 billion. This is aside from new Air Force assets that include 6 attack helicopters from Turkey worth 13 billion pesos.
We expect the Attack 129, it's a close air support platform, helicopter, and of course yung ating medium lift aircraft for transporting our troops and their authorized passengers.
All these, the military says, geared not only to protect the nation's security but also to be used for government's response to disasters and the pandemic. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
Coming up on Newsnight, updates on the much-awaited Miss World pageant with the announcement of the top 40 list. And Adele tries to heal fans' heartbreak after rescheduling shows through a surprise over the phone. Details when we return.
RPN DXKP Pagadian. Ang inyong Radyo Ronda. RPN. RPN. Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. Live to the world. Pinaagi sa FB page. Karon, mag-download na. Pinaagi sa Google Play o Apple Store, YouTube o Twitter. Alang sa mas ipakuskan ng mga balita, komentaryo, kasayuran o kalingawan. Ang mas ipakuskan ng inyong Radyo Ronda. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. We may see players return to the hard court soon, with the Philippine Basketball Association Board agreeing to resume the Governor's Cup in the first week of February. Commissioner Willie Marshall says the league is just waiting for approval from local governments to begin scrimmages among teams. Guidelines under Alert Level 3 state that contact sports are not allowed unless in a bubble. PBA suspended games earlier this month because of rising COVID-19 infections. Now, the race for the Miss World crown is heating up with a list of top 40 candidates already out. The country's bet, Tracy Maureen Perez, is among them as one of the 15 fast-track winners. This comes after her triumphs in the Beauty with a Purpose and head-to-head pre-coronation challenges. With this, Tracy also advances to the top 30. Pageant body announced that only the top 40 will grace the Miss World stage in Puerto Rico this March 16. But they're hoping all countries will still join Coronation Night online. After postponing concerts in Las Vegas in the United States, Adele made it up to some fans with a once-in-a-lifetime treat, a personal video call. James Mason Fox, who flew in from Nashville for the show, posted a TikTok about his frustration over the rescheduling. This caught the attention of the English singer. Through Adele's Instagram account, James was told to get to a merchandise shop in Caesar's Palace. Shortly after that, one of the vocalist's employees held up a phone with Adele on the other end.
It's okay. Hold on! It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Adele's shows under her Las Vegas residency were moved because of COVID-19 cases among her team. And that is it for now. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
The onset of the cold Burr months and the long preparation leading to Christmas is something we all look forward to. However, it also comes with some illnesses that are common this time of year, and allergic rhinitis is one of them. It's an allergy-related inflammation of your nasal passages, your throat, and sometimes even your eyes. And while it's not contagious, Sneezing due to the allergic reactions and immune responses can spread germs and put other people at risk of other diseases. Today, we'll learn more about the symptoms of allergic rhinitis, how to spot them, and what to do with regards to treatment as well as prevention. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're here to build a healthier future for you. Now, allergic rhinitis is triggered by allergens, and allergens can be found in so many things: pollen, mold, cockroaches, insects, particles or flakes from skin from certain animals. That's why it's very important for any individual to understand what causes this, what triggers this condition. Now let's welcome our guests. Joining us is Dr. Maria Lourdes Enicilia. She's an ENT head and neck surgeon from Medical Center Taguig and St. Luke's Medical Center. Also with us is Dr. Fatima Joanna Santos Ocampo. She's a pediatric and adult allergist from the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Now, for those with allergic rhinitis, the symptoms may be similar to other allergic reactions. I'll start first with Dr. Mari. Can we discuss what some of the common symptoms of someone who has allergic rhinitis are?
So with allergic rhinitis, rhinitis meaning nasal symptoms. So the usual nasal symptoms would be sneezing, and it's usually violent, like sunod-sunod na pagbahing. So several sneezes, one after the other. And you usually have watery nasal discharge, so yung matubig na sipon, di siya malapot, di siya makulay, it's usually very clear, and then nasal blockage. And sometimes the nose is very itchy, even the eyes. And for children, sometimes they cough also. And very classic with this, if you're talking about allergic rhinitis, is there's no fever.
Whenever they find these types of symptoms, what should they think about, Dr. Mari? Should they start thinking first that this is a viral type of illness, or is it more common that this could be an allergic type of reaction?
Well, for most of the patients with allergic rhinitis, you might have noticed already happening even when you were very young. So you sort of recognize it already. And again, if there's no fever or you're feeling na magkakasakit, like your body pains, joint pains, then you would think more it's allergic rhinitis. And again, if there's a pattern, and then it will just go away. But if it's the symptoms are lasting the whole day, several days, and the mucus is becoming thick, and you feel bad, or there's fever, then it might already be like a viral cold, or even a bacterial nasal problem. So then you might need to consult your doctor.
When it comes to other related factors that could increase the chance of someone having allergic rhinitis, what could some of the more common things be, Dr. Mari?
If your parents, you have relatives, your siblings also have allergic rhinitis, you're more at risk for this. But it's also environmental that they found over the years. There's also what we call a hygiene hypothesis. So they found that those who actually were exposed to a lot of different infections, were playing outside when they were kids, they tended to have a better immune condition, and they did not have the allergic rhinitis. They did not develop it, unlike those who weren't really exposed during childhood. So that's what. And also your exposure to pollution, actually diesel fumes, they found that this can actually make you develop allergic rhinitis. So that's also a factor.
Now, Dr. Fatima, when it comes to this, yung environment natin, air pollution is increasing, the smoke is increasing from vehicles, lalo na dito sa Metro Manila. Are these surefire triggers, especially for someone who has allergic rhinitis?
Actually, it's a global thing. No, it's this pollution that's over the years coming from fossil fuels and all that has actually created, of course, what we all know is climate change. And what does it mean? Actually, that means that there is a real elevation. One of the things that's concerning is that the temperature, the environmental temperature has actually increased. No? These are irritants. They're not really allergens, but they're irritants. They really affect the functioning of our airway. They make them very responsive yung umiipit, ganyan, kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng asthma attacks, no? And the same thing happens in the upper airway. It affects the lining of the upper airways, masyadong nai-irritate. Kaya, yes, you'll have more of the sneezing, the runny nose, at saka yung congestion.
Now, I'd like to ask Dr. Mari, right now, papunta na tayo sa Burr months. Marami tayong mga changes in temperature, changes in weather. I'm sure a lot of our viewers do feel some of the symptoms coming from that. Nasal congestion, some irritation. Is this allergic rhinitis? How can we explain this better to our viewers?
So at this time of the year, with more moisture in the air, you can have more of the mold, more of the dust mites, and with wind, air current, sometimes the pollen, there's more pollen coming down or going around you. So yes, most patients will have more severe symptoms this time of year.
Now, Dr. Joni, what are some of the complications naman that can arise with allergic rhinitis that isn't identified or isn't managed effectively?
People with allergic rhinitis tend have more chances also to have asthma, by the way, allergic asthma. So I hope people would realize na if your allergic rhinitis is not controlled, it can actually trigger your asthma. So when you have asthma, you have to bear in mind na baka meron akong allergic rhinitis na hindi na-address.
Okay.
So that's very important, ha? And then also other things, for example, yung pagkakaroon ng sinusitis, no? This is an inflammation of the lining of the sinuses, no? Dito sa loob ng upper airways, sa kaloob-looban. So you can have that. And that could really be very bad, more severe yung mga symptoms mo. And you can also have parang bacteria added to it. So you can have an infectious rhinitis, sinusitis tuloy, no?
Meron bang certain levels ang allergic rhinitis when it comes to its severity? Meaning, are there people who have allergic rhinitis pero tinitiis lang nila kasi nakakayanan naman nila? What can you say about people who are not getting treatment even in the mild forms?
You can have complications pag pinabayaan. So how do you know if you need to see a doctor? I usually say if you're having your symptoms every day or almost every day, like 4 times a week, and it's every week, and it lasts more than 1 hour. Now it's half the morning or even the whole day, and you can't even go out without you having a handkerchief or your tissue paper, and you can't play sports, you can't sleep well. So even though natitiis nyo po yun, kung ganun yung effect sa inyo, then it's something that needs to be controlled, and you have to see a doctor to avoid the complications.
Up next, we'll talk more about the causes of allergic rhinitis and how you can control or prevent them. We're your connection to healthcare. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. External factors can cause your allergies, and these allergens or irritants can vary from pollution to dust to pollen, among other things. Now we'll go more in depth with the allergens that can be found inside your home and how you can control and prevent any symptoms of allergic rhinitis. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're together in health. Now, some plants make a fine particle called pollen that's light enough to travel through the air, and this is how these plants grow and reproduce. But inhaling this can be a trigger to an allergic reaction, especially in a tropical country like ours, where plant life is very abundant, even indoors. Now, Dr. Joni, how can pollen, specific pollen, actually be a trigger for allergic rhinitis?
Pollens come from plants, any so weeds or grasses, mga trees, no? But they differ in character, in size, no? So in general, what we think of as allergenic are the ones that are very light, very tiny, no? Such that they can float. They can be carried by the wind, actually up to 400 miles, no? Depende sa wind, no? And of course, they can also enter our system better. So nakakapasok, nalalanghap mo siya. So those are usually the pollens that are responsible for allergies.
Dr. Mari, can you give us some tips on how to keep our homes pollen-free, or for that matter, if I have a pollen allergy, what is the best thing for me to do?
If you've noticed that with your indoor plants, you're having more attacks, so maybe you need to change the plants that you have. Again, not every plant is allergenic. It's usually the ones that shed, a very small seeds or light flowering plants. Actually, we've seen less allergy for a lot of patients because they've been staying indoors, and when they go outdoors, they wear a mask. So that's actually one protection if you're particularly allergic to pollen, especially when it's very windy or there's thunderstorms, high wind rates. You would expect more pollen in the air. So actually using our masks have protected us.
Dr. Mari, when it comes to this, dust mites, these are very small bugs in someone's house. It can't be seen by the naked eye, but it can cause an allergic reaction for people. Is there anything that you could suggest for our viewers to potentially identify if they do have a dust mite allergy? Are there specific symptoms that they could watch out for, certain scenarios?
Dust mites are your most common allergens, and very classic. Upon waking, when you wake up, you haven't even stood up, you haven't gone anywhere, you're sneezing, you have runny nose, you have nasal blockage. Most likely you're allergic to dust mites because the dust mites are in your mattress and pillows. And if you live in the Philippines, most likely you have dust mites in your mattress and pillows. That's accepted because they like the humid environment. So if you want to protect yourself from dust mites, there are dust mite covers. But remember, again, there's a limitation to their efficacy. Over time, it's not as effective, so you might need to change. And then they are killed by heat. So you just need to wash your beddings in warm water regularly. But even the mattress and pillows, ideally you expose them to direct sunlight or heat so that you can also kill the dust mites that are there.
Dr. Joni, can I ask you naman, meron bang difference ang dust mites and bed bugs? Because a lot of our viewers might confuse the two.
Bed bugs are larger than dust mites, no? Bed bugs you can actually see, easily. And dust mites are microscopic. For you to really see them, you really need a microscope, to see these creatures. They really like to go where the people lie down, they sleep, Similarly, the bed bugs also would like to go there. But then the bed bugs also would like to stay in your mga damit, yung mga seams ng mga folds sa mga damit, yung mga ganyan sa materials. Then, you can maybe see them. The bed bugs will not cause allergic rhinitis. However, there are people who can be sensitive to bed bugs, mind you, pero sa kagat nila, tsaka it's the skin, so you would see a pattern of rash na pwede mo sabihin, ay, yan, bed bug yan.
Dr. Mari, let's talk about molds. A lot of people may discount this, don't really think about this as something really dangerous, but they can lead to some really serious complications with someone's body.
We're very lucky in the Philippines. We have a lot of mold and dust mites. So they love the humid environment that we have. So we have to find ways also to limit our exposure to the mold because they really cause a lot of allergies. You have to remove any damp areas in your bathroom. You clean, you wipe down. Make sure there's the curtains. They tend to develop mold. Damp clothes inside the closet. So you have to minimize these damp areas and decrease the humidity to less than 50%. To lessen both the dust mites and the mold.
Dr. Joni, let's talk about pets. And are pets really the cause of a lot of allergic symptoms? How can true pet lovers deal with this? What can they do?
Well, as with any allergy, this is genetically determined. First, you have the predisposition nasa genes natin. A lot of times, I'd say 75% of the time. Now, ibig sabihin, may tendency ka na, so baka hindi mo maiwasan yon dahil meron yung nanay, tatay mo na ipasa sa'yo. So, however, may mga studies rin naman that show that there are some parang tendencies na baka less ang expression ng allergy na yon kapag na-expose ka early in life. Now, if you have an allergy, established allergy already, so ang key pa rin natin is to prevent exposure. So, kung talagang hindi mo mailalayo or hindi mo pamimigay yung pet dog or cat, siguro at the very least, nasa iba silang room or outdoors kung pwede ang sitwasyon. No?
Now, this time of year, allergic rhinitis is so common. When we return, we'll talk about how to treat allergic rhinitis. Your health is our mission. This is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. There are several ways to treat allergic rhinitis, and these include trigger avoidance, even medication, as well as even home remedies. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care always comes first. Treatment for allergic rhinitis depends on how severe your symptoms are and how much they're affecting your day-to-day activities. Dr. Mari, what are some of the more common medications available to treat or control allergic rhinitis?
From vitamins, supplements, to the over-the-counter anti-allergy medications, or what we know as the antihistamines. The decongestant, usually what you take for flu, which can help you also if you're very congested. But, I have nothing against this if you want to try it once in a while for your allergic rhinitis. But if you find that you're using it all the time, then maybe this is not the right medication for you. There are other medications that your doctor can give if you have symptoms all the time. It's not good to take these over-the-counter medications every day for a month, 2 months, a year. So you have to see your doctor already.
Now, Dr. Joni, when it comes to treatment, is it okay to try over-the-counter medications to control my allergic rhinitis? If my friend or my neighbor takes this medication for their allergic rhinitis, it may work for me as well. What's your advice on this?
Depends on what it is, no? Kasi when we say over-the-counter, honestly, the antihistamines, I think they should be prescribed with a prescription, but here, alam naman natin it's not so strict. So basically, it can be over-the-counter. So the pure antihistamines, the ones that don't make you fall asleep, they're part of the treatment of our allergic rhinitis. Now, it will depend on the severity, no? Ano ba ang effect sa'yo ng rhinitis mo? Is it really super bad? Then you have to go and talk to your doctor because the doctor can prescribe more than the antihistamines. So, meron tayong mga sprays para sa nose. For long term, hindi na yan ang ginagamit natin. Meron na tayong mga nasal steroid. And these are the most efficacious treatment for mga ganong klaseng rhinitis na talagang mahirap, matagal na.
Now let's talk about home remedies. Now home remedies may be effective up to a certain extent, and it all depends on how severe your allergies can be. Now we'll start first with Dr. Mari. What are some home remedies that our viewers can try if they do have allergic rhinitis symptoms?
One home remedy that you can try is washing the nose. Okay, but just remember there is a specific kind of fluid that you need to wash the nose that will not irritate or even damage your nose. So a home remedy is 1 liter of purified or distilled water, pwede ring pre-boiled tap, but not straight from the tap. And then 2 teaspoonfuls of non-iodized salt. So remember, it has to be non-iodized. Hindi pwede yung regular table salt. And then with 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, and then you have to use it within 24 hours. You cannot use it for longer than that because then there will be already bacterial growth there. Okay, and that is something that you can do, a home remedy to clean your nose and to relieve the congestion.
Now, Dr. Joni, any tips or home remedies, home solutions that you could suggest for our viewers?
You must keep your home relatively, if you can, not dust mite free. We can never do that, but less dust mites in the area. So, like she mentioned, the washing in hot water of your beddings, no, and maybe you ought to not put carpets anymore, kasi they will be dust gatherers, no. So don't give it a chance to settle anywhere.
We hope you found our discussion today helpful. Thank you very much to ENT Head and Neck Surgeon Dr. Maria Lourdes Encilia and allergist Dr. Fatima Joanna Santos Ocampo. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this has been MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.